thank you for joining us today. You're listening to Pet EDU, and I'm your host, Mary Obadier. This is Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Today, I feel very privileged to be interviewing my guest. Thanks to her, there are a lot of dogs that have a happy life and a wonderful home, even if it's temporary. She has created a beautiful sanctuary for dogs that are separated from their owners due to illness, military deployment, injury, abandonment, or long-term travel. I am very anxious today to be talking to MARSHA PANUCCI, and I hope I'm saying that name right, who is the founder and executive director of DONTE'S Den in Mayaca, Florida. She is also the host and executive producer of the nationally syndicated TV show Animal Outtakes. Welcome to the show, MARSHA.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, in the bio that you sent me, you have done some amazing things before you came to where you are today. It sounds like you led a very exciting and glamorous life. So please share with us about yourself. And then also, what was in your heart that made you find DONTE'S Den?
Well, first of all, you have to recognize that I've been around for a long time. So my work history and my goals certainly have been around in the last 40 years. But I started out my professional life as a concert pianist, and I started that very, very early in my life. I was a teenager, and because of that, I was able to travel to Europe, which probably I would have never done had I not been involved with music and concertizing. And so I went about my business and I concertized and I had a wonderful time. But you know, a lot of time is downtime when you are a musician. You're either rehearsing or you're going to a rehearsal, and then you have the performance, and then guess what? There's nothing. Your adrenaline is pumping, everything is going, and now you go to bed late, and there you are in the morning. So we were in Milan, Italy. We were doing a number of concerts in Milan, Italy, and I started to watch the Milanese women walk in Milan. It was wonderful. 3-inch high heels, gorgeous suits, beautiful clothes. And I thought, wow, we don't see this back in the States. Now, you have to remember, this was in the 1970s. And so I decided right then and there I was going to start a fashion business, and I did so. And I went to a number of designers and convinced them that we were big and we had the right contacts, and I always spoke in the we. Well, there was the I, and I had no contact, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to execute this, but we executed it and became a nationally known force for accessories, the handbags, wallets, high fashion jewelry, and that's where it was born. But all the while, with all of my traveling, because I had to go to Russia to get certain stones, and I had to go to China to get certain fabrics and so on, there was always the goal at the end of the rainbow, and that goal was to take care of dogs. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I wanted to do more than just be a rescue, because rescues have been around for many, many, many years. Some are better than others. And I had to think about this. But remember, this was back in the 70s. So I proceeded with my career of fashion and so on, but always with the idea that I was going to help dogs and I was going to figure it out. And that's how we got to DONTE'S Den.
Now, DONTE'S Den is named after one of your beloved dogs.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
He was a PhD in fur, you know. He was a standard schnauzer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had schnauzers, all the different sizes. I've had German Shepherds, and now, of course, I have a United Nations of dogs. And and I must tell you that I always felt that Dante was just a PhD in fur. And unfortunately, he passed away at a very, very early age, actually 2 months after my husband passed away. And I think that that was the beginning of the catalyst of what did I really need to do for dogs. And that's how that started.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I probably never told you this, but I named my business after my dog Chase. I named it Chase and Tails Pet Care because I loved my dog Chase so much. So I know what it's like when you want to build a legacy around a dog that you loved with all your heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you were in the process of creating a safe haven for dogs, did you have a clear vision in your mind about how you wanted the premises to be, what you wanted on there, how you wanted everything to be? Did you have that all mentally visioned?
Yes, because I started with a blank sheet of paper. I knew that the facility needed to be home-like. We had to provide that home away from home. When my husband passed away, we had 4 dogs. And I worried because the dogs would be left to their own devices if something happened to me. So I felt I needed to create a culture that they would be able to make an easy transition from my love and my home into another home with just as much love, if not more. I don't know how that could be possible, but we have accomplished it.
Wow. And that leads me to ask you, they don't live in cages, do they?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That to me is just barbaric. Mm-hmm. They live in 8 by 10 air-conditioned rooms. They have their own little beds in there. We use the Kuranda beds. They have porches that they can go out on, and they all do in the morning. They all go out for their first morning little coffee, shall we say, out there. And they just absolutely, positively love it. They have room to run around, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, they're as they say, they're living large.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well, you have more than just dogs there too, don't you?
Oh, you peaked. Yes. When I bought the property, I bought 50 acres, and it was absolutely beautiful and silent and just very, very, almost magical, mystical. But again, it was very, very quiet. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I've got to get some life on here before I get the dogs. And so I went around the Mayaca area, and I was able to find miniature Holstein. These are about 500 pounds in weight versus the 1,100 pounds of the regular Holstein. And I thought, well, I can take care of them. So I got a male and 5 females. And then I learned that you must have a donkey. The donkey will protect these cows against gators and panthers and bobcats and who knows what else. So I found a donkey, and I found cows and donkeys that needed help. They were neglected, they were forgotten, and our donkey, unfortunately, who we named Hee-Haw, was abused. Perfect for Dante's den to bring onto the property.
Mm-hmm. Well, I never knew that donkeys protected other animals.
Well, they certainly do the cows. I've heard that they will protect other herd-type animals, and they do a great job. Hee-Haw is just great. She's just the one you want.
Oh, well, before I go to my next question, I have to ask, out of the 1 male and the 5 females, how many babies do you have?
21. They figured it out. And so we've had 4 years of wonderful babies, and they never leave. They never leave Dante's Den. They have roughly now about 30 acres of pasture, beautiful pasture land and forest, and they just kind of mosey along every day, and they have a very good life. Of course, we feed them. We feed them the best food that we can, the best hay. They get supplements, and of course, they get taken care of medically by our veterinarian staff. They're doing well.
Well, that's awesome. So let me ask you, what all is, I know that you have a veterinarian on your campus, but what are all the buildings besides where you house the dogs? And I'm guessing you have a groomer. Tell me about all the buildings that you have.
Well, we have, of course, a welcome center, but in the back of this welcome center, we have the quarantine area and the intake area and a clinic. This is all for the dogs. And Dante's Den is strictly a dog sanctuary. Now, I must admit, we have acquired one cat, but she watches the hospital for us. Her name is Raja, and Raja also has a good life. She was neglected and abused, and somebody brought her to us and said, could you please take this cat? You know, it's hard to look into their eyes and say, no, we can't do this. Mm-hmm. So that's why Raja is there. When we go for dogs that are going to be adopted, because Dante's Den has a number of components, we are very unique in what we do. And in some cases, we are the only ones in the country that are doing and offering these services. So when we do go for dogs for our adoption, we call it our joyful adoption, because our dogs are joyful and healthy when they get to go home with somebody. We go only to the death row inmates of the different animal services or humane societies or whatever. We take those that have been doomed and we bring them to Dante's. And of course, we find that they have to be medically taken care of. And of course, the social behavior really has to kick in, and we have to work very, very hard. Then once they are in our intake area where we've observed their personalities and their behaviors and such, they move a half a mile up through our wooded campus, and they go into either the adoption center, where we can have 45 dogs available for adoption, or they go into our den buildings if they are one of the other programs that we offer. Then we have a veterinarian hospital, a full veterinarian, full-service hospital. We have 5 veterinarians that come there and administer to us. We have ICU units. We have digital x-rays, digital sonograms, a full surgical arena. There is not a surgery that we cannot do. And if we have to bring in specialists, recently we had to bring in neurologists. We bring them in and we take care of them.
Well, when I look at Dante's Den on the website, I'm telling you, Marcia, it blows me away with the size, the cleanliness, you know, how beautiful your facilities are. You even have a swimming pool for the dogs in the shape of a bone. So do you have pool parties for the dogs? You like the ones that get along, you let them go play. How do you manage pool time?
Well, pool time for a lot of them is almost all day, every day. You know, we watch the dogs. We do try to pair them. We never push. We never force.